Welcome to the realm of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Enjoy listening. Dave Ambrose was a man trying to adapt to life in space. He was one of the highly skilled members selected by the Space Council, yet, like all the others, this was his first time venturing beyond Earth. The first few days were tough. He struggled with the unfamiliar environment, the artificial gravity, and the endless void outside the station's walls. However, as time passed, he started to settle in. Back on Earth, Dave had been passionate about cars. He loved everything about them, their speed, their design, the thrill of driving. But here, in the depths of space, that passion had nowhere to flourish. There were no roads, no garages, and certainly no cars. One day, while talking with his co-workers, his best friend, Mark, mentioned something that immediately caught Dave's attention. "There's a car dealership here, Mark said with a smirk. Dave raised an eyebrow. "You're messing with me." Mark chuckled. "I'm serious. It's a special kind of dealership. If you're interested, I can take you there." Dave found the idea absurd. If there really were cars in this place, wouldn't he have seen them already? But Mark spoke with such confidence that Dave's curiosity got the better of him. A few days later, they set out to find this mysterious dealership. When they arrived, Dave was stunned. Dozens of cars lined the showroom, each more futuristic than the last. Their sleek exteriors gleamed under artificial lights, and their interiors were packed with technology far beyond what he had seen on Earth. Yet there were no salespeople in sight. As he marveled at the vehicles, Mark's attention was drawn to a nearby screen. "Look at this," Mark said. The screen read, "Purchases made here." It was a fully automated system. All Dave had to do was insert his card, select a car, and receive a key. He browsed for a moment before selecting one that caught his eye, a streamlined, high-tech vehicle with an elegant midnight blue finish. Swiping his card, he retrieved the key and walked toward the car, his excitement growing. The moment he approached, the car's sensors lit up. But as he opened the door, he froze. Sitting in the driver's seat was a woman, stunning, otherworldly, with deep burgundy hair cascading over her shoulders and a soft violet hue to her skin. Her golden eyes shimmered like twin stars. Dave turned to Mark in confusion, but before he could say anything, the woman spoke. "I'm Naira," she said with a gentle smile. "This car is mine, and now, don't panic. Just get in." Dave hesitated. Something about this felt off. But at the same time, there was an undeniable pull. Something about her made him want to trust her. He slid into the seat beside her, and Naira reached forward, activating the system. Holographic displays flickered to life, the dashboard subtly shifted, and the windshield transformed into an interactive interface, analyzing the environment like a simulation. Naira began explaining the vehicle's features. Its stability in zero gravity, its advanced guidance systems, and its ability to maneuver seamlessly through space colonies. She spoke with confidence and ease, and Dave found himself captivated by both her words and her presence. Still, he couldn't shake one lingering question. "Why were you sitting in this car?" he finally asked. Naira chuckled, as if she had anticipated the question. She explained that each car came with a driving companion, a guide assigned to new owners for a week-long orientation period. It was meant to help buyers adjust to the vehicle and understand its capabilities. The explanation made sense, and yet something about her felt too real. But for now, Dave chose to go along with it. As they drove through the station's glowing corridors, Naira's presence grew more intoxicating. She glanced at him with playful amusement, brushing his arm occasionally, and her soft laughter filled the car. By the time they reached his residence, Dave realized that something inside him had already changed. He had been longing for companionship, for something to anchor him in this vast emptiness. And now, out of nowhere, he had found her. That night, as they sat together in his quarters, the tension between them became undeniable. When he finally leaned in, Naira didn't pull away. Their lips met, and in that moment, all of Dave's doubts melted away. The next morning, Dave made a decision. He wasn't going to work. He wanted every second with Naira. She found him in the kitchen making coffee, and he wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her close. She leaned against him, resting her head on his shoulder. They spent the entire day in the car, racing through the colony's floating highways, pushing the limits of speed and gravity. Naira's laughter rang through the cabin as they explored hidden corners of the station, testing the car's capabilities in ways no one else had dared. At stoplights, they stole kisses. In tunnels, Dave reached for her hand, and in the quiet, empty stretches of the colony, they simply sat together, watching the stars through the windshield, lost in each other's presence. Each day blurred into the next. They cooked together, shared stories about their lives, and found comfort in their growing bond. Naira spoke of her homeworld, of the life she had left behind, and Dave opened up about his own past, his family, his dreams, his regrets. By the fifth day, Dave knew he was falling in love, and that terrified him, because in 2 days, Naira would be gone. On the final day, as Naira guided the car through the glowing streets, Dave turned to her, his heart pounding. "I don't want this to end," he said quietly. Naira glanced at him, her expression unreadable. "I want to go back to Earth," he continued, "and I don't want to go alone. Come with me." A moment of silence passed between them. Then, slowly, Naira smiled. She reached out, resting her hand over his. "Yes," she whispered. Together, they began the process of leaving the system. It wasn't easy. Naira had to navigate complex protocols to detach from her assignment. But in the end, she chose Dave over the life she had always known. And when they finally stepped onto Earth's soil, Dave turned to her, the sunlight warming his face. He had never been more certain of anything in his life. Looking into her golden eyes, he asked, "Will you marry me?" Naira's breath hitched, her eyes shining with emotion. She smiled. Yes. They built a new life together. Naira adapted to Earth far better than either of them had expected. She was fascinated by the vibrant chaos of human civilization, the ever-changing skies, the scent of rain on asphalt, the way the ocean stretched endlessly beyond the horizon. For someone who had spent her entire life surrounded by the sterile metal corridors of space stations and the artificial landscapes of engineered colonies, Earth was overwhelming in the most beautiful way. Dave took her everywhere. Their first road trip was along the California coast, where Naira experienced the salty breeze of the Pacific for the first time. She closed her eyes as the wind played with her burgundy hair, listening to the rhythmic crash of waves against the shore. "It's alive," she whispered, reaching out toward the endless water. "Everything here breathes." Dave smiled, watching her. "Yeah, it does." She had never felt soil beneath her feet before, had never seen trees that weren't simulations in a biodome. She marveled at the colors of autumn, the way leaves transformed from green to gold to fiery crimson before drifting to the ground. She was endlessly curious, asking questions about everything: why birds migrated, how rivers carved through rock, what made the sky change colors during sunset. And Dave loved answering her. Their days were filled with exploration, their nights spent wrapped in each other's warmth, whispering about their pasts, their dreams, and their future. One evening, as they lay on the hood of Dave's car beneath a blanket of stars, Naira traced patterns on his arm with her fingertips. "I never imagined I'd find love here," she murmured. "Not on this planet. Not in this lifetime." Dave turned his head to look at her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Me neither." She smiled softly. "Do you ever think about the day you found me? When you opened that car door?" He chuckled. "I thought I was losing my mind." Naira laughed, shaking her head. "And now?" Dave shifted closer, his forehead resting against hers. "Now, I know that was the best moment of my life, but love, especially love that crossed galaxies, was never simple." One day, a message arrived. It was from the Space Council. Dave's status as a returning officer had not gone unnoticed. His abrupt departure had raised questions, and his name had resurfaced in classified discussions. But what worried him most wasn't the message itself. It was the fact that it also mentioned Naira. It was a request for a meeting. "They know about me," Naira said quietly, reading over his shoulder. Dave's jaw clenched. "They're not taking you back." "I don't think that's their plan," she said, though there was uncertainty in her voice. "But they are interested. They want to understand why I left. Because you wanted to. Because I chose you." The meeting was held in a neutral facility, a research center hidden in the mountains away from prying eyes. Dave accompanied Naira, unwilling to leave her side. They were greeted by a small team of officials, all of whom regarded Naira with quiet curiosity. The questions started simple. How had she adapted? Did she regret leaving her assigned position? Did she feel different after spending time on Earth? But then they turned to Dave. Are you certain, one of the officers asked, that her decision was entirely her own? Dave's hands curled into fists. Of course I am, but Naira remained calm. You're asking if I was manipulated. The officer hesitated before nodding. There have been cases in the past where individuals from different species developed attachments due to psychological dependencies rather than genuine emotion. Naira leaned forward slightly. Do I look like someone who doesn't know what she wants? The silence that followed was answer enough. After hours of questions and analysis, the officials finally reached their conclusion. Naira was free to stay. As they walked out of the building, Dave let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. I told you, she said, nudging him playfully. He laughed, shaking his head. I still don't trust them. Neither do I, she admitted. But it doesn't matter. They don't control us. That night, as they returned home, Dave pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her forehead. I love you, he murmured. Naira smiled. I know. Life continued, weaving itself into something beautifully ordinary. But Dave had one last surprise. It happened on an ordinary evening. They had driven deep into the countryside where the city lights couldn't reach the sky and parked beneath a vast expanse of stars. Naira lay on the hood of the car, gazing up at the constellations. I used to think space was infinite, she whispered, that no matter how far you traveled, you'd never reach the end. Dave turned to her, his heart hammering. And now, she smiled. Now, I think love is infinite, because no matter where we are, I know I'll never reach the end of what I feel for you. He exhaled shakily, then reached into his pocket. Naira frowned slightly as he sat up. What's wrong? Instead of answering, Dave pulled out a small box. Naira froze. Slowly, he opened it, revealing a ring, a simple band with a shimmering star-like gemstone at its center. I was going to wait, he admitted, but I don't want to waste another second. Naira, will you marry me? Her golden eyes filled with tears. For a long moment, she simply stared at him as if trying to commit every detail of this moment to memory. Then, with a trembling breath, she whispered, Yes. Dave slid the ring onto her finger, and before he could even process what was happening, she threw her arms around him, holding him as tightly as she could. As they kissed beneath the endless night sky, Dave knew. This was it. Not the vastness of space, not the loneliness of the stars, not the emptiness he had once felt in his heart. This was home. She was home. And their love, their infinite love, was the only thing that truly defied the universe.